Hello everyone, Blue Star Saber here to give a review on the first two episodes of Willow. Sorry about my voice, I am rather ill and all that stuff, so I'm not at my best audio, but I'll still give it a shot. But yeah, Willow, episodes 1 and 2, the continuation of George Lucas's fantasy movie series, Willow, starring Warwick Davis. Now, in Gods of Willow, I didn't grow up with this like I did with Star Wars, and I did not get into this in my teens like I did, say, Indiana Jones. I only really watched the film this year when it was on Disney Plus because of how rare it is to find the film. But I was always curious of seeing this film because it was regarded as a moderate success. It was the only one of the few films post Star Wars and Indiana Jones George Lucas did that was considered a moderate success and all that stuff. That wasn't a box office bomb like Howard the Duck or Labyrinth, or that Tucker film, I believe that Francis Ford Coppola made that Lucas financed. But yeah. So, I've been, and this was his fourth series that he tried to make into a franchise, but due to moderate success at the box office, sequel films were never made, though there were books made from the Shadow trilogy, I believe, in which starred the character Alora Dawn, who was like the baby that Willow has to save and all that stuff. Let's see where he outlined the stories for them and had them written by X-Men comic book writer Chris Claremont, which is interesting. Granted, from my understanding, the show does not follow those books' timelines, so you've got a sort of Legends and a Disney timeline with Willow as well, besides Star Wars. Now, whether or not that's the same with Indiana Jones, I do not know with like its comics and all that stuff, but yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. From my understanding, George Lucas had talks in Warwick Davis to at least to return to Willow as far back as 2005. And he I call the history. He ended up talking to him about doing this film during the production of Return of the Jedi. So he had this franchise long planned. And from what I best can describe of this franchise, it's sort of like what if George Lucas did Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all that stuff. Not as it was granted the film received mixed reviews from critics. Granted, some of them were probably named. Some of the villains were named after critics, so that probably didn't help. And again, I believe General Kill was always its name was named after a critic that never really liked Lucas's works. So there you go. But yeah, some saying that Lucas lost his touch. Others saying that it's cool. It was a step return after the disaster of Howard and the box office failure of Labyrinth. But yeah. Anyway, since Lucasfilm is now owned by Disney, let's see. I think Disney probably realized that, Lucasfilm does have a few other franchises like Indiana Jones, which is coming out, fifth film is coming out next year. And they do have one other film they can do, which is Willow. The only franchise you can think of is maybe American Graffiti, but I remember Lucas tried a sequel to that once, and it didn't really work out. So, yeah. Well, he produced it, but never really directed it himself. So, yeah, there's no really going to be a... So, yeah, American Graffiti was pretty much a one-off film that tried to become a franchise, but didn't. But, yeah. So, this is arguably Lucasfilm's main third franchise. So, yeah. Anyway, I should probably get on to the episode review and all that stuff. Let's see. So the premise of this has been like years since Queen Bavamar was defeated by Willow and his friends and all that stuff. And now a unlikely group of 6 heroes are set off on a dangerous quest to find places beyond their home where they must face their emo demons and come together to save the world from the Gales and all that stuff. And I've seen we've got some spam comments, but I'm just going to ignore them. Let's see, but yeah. Anyway, the first episode, The Gales, in which Fritzy, after a bit of an intro of like Ritzy using a similar thing to what they did with the Kenobi, with like showing films from like the film Willow. I should, in many ways, Willow kind of reminds me of like Cobra Kai and the Karate Kid, where an online streaming series following the events of a movie, though unlike the Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, Willow only had one movie, and of course, well, let's see, it's the show is named after it's got the same name as the film. But anyway, but yeah, episode 1, The Gales. And following years of the defeat of the Queen and all that stuff. Let's see, Shorter has become like the new queen and was married to like Marta Gayam, and they had 2 twins, Prince Eric and Princess Kit. Let's see, we see that Princess Kit has formed a friendship and sort of a romance with Jade, her knight in training and all that stuff, portrayed by Erin Kellyman, who was in Solo and was the villain in The Falcon and Winter Soldier and all that stuff, but Flag Smash, I believe. So yeah, Warwick Davis has had some history with at least one of these actresses. But yeah, they're training, and I believe Jade's adopted father, Commander Ballatine, has been summoned by the Queen to get them. Meanwhile, Prince Eric, who is a bit of a womanizer, is making out with a girl named Dove, played by Ellie Bamber, all that stuff, and Tritzy, and he's trying to cover up his rumors about him and all that stuff. But yeah, you can see that Dove is really in love with them and all that stuff. But yeah, their mother has called them as an opposite kingdom. Has come to greet them and all that stuff, and I think to build on an alliance and that stuff in the meeting. During which we learn that Princess Kit is engaged to someone called Prince Graydon, portrayed by Tony Revolver, who is, Flash Thompson in the MCU. All that stuff, and apparently these two will be rulers of the kingdoms, and so that's the Princess Ilaren returns and all that stuff, and becomes the Empress and all that stuff of the land. But yeah, during this, Kit learns that Jade is going to some sort of knight's training and all that stuff, and so we're leaving her behind, which causes her to have a bit of an outburst, talking about which arguably the plot, the beginning of the Brave movie, and where you had princesses and young lords challenging to win the princess's honor, but then she ended up competing herself to win her own hand and choose her own thing. This causes an outburst, which makes a scene which infuriates the mother. I should also mention during this time, Dove sees Eric Whitsey getting along, maybe even possibly flirting with other noblemen and all that stuff, and she gets a bit upset by this, despite her seems to be her caretaker, telling her to stop being all focused on it. Eventually, Sorasha interrupts them, and Sorasha scolds both her children, and they're forced to their room, and plans to have him apologize tomorrow and all that stuff. Dove tries to break up with Eric, but he insists that he loves her and makes a promise to her. While Kit is planning to leave and asks Jade to come with her, but Jade tries to persuade her not to. However, they're attacked by a group called the Gales, whose members are named the Scourge, Doom, Lich, and the Dag. Let me just let's see. The Scourge is a sort of hulking monster with a cage over his head, sort of the mass of the group. The Doom is a hooded, robed, and masked member of the Gales. And let's see, the Doom is and the Lich is a member of the Gales who has the ability to affect people. I'll come to this later. And the Dag is a shapeshifter. Well, that stuff that can turn into any kind of creature, if you will. There's a battle that breaks out, and during this fight, the Queen releases someone called Factus Borman, and someone that's in prison, who seems to be associated with Mad Martigan. And I should probably mention that the Queen has had visions and all that stuff. Eventually, Prince Eric is Prince Eric is being kidnapped by the one called the Dag and all that stuff, and a party is made of let's see, Princess Kit, Jade, Prince Gaiden. After his father insists he goes on the quest after whispering something. Firaxis Borman, and after Commander Ballantine tries to volunteer, he gets declined because he's needed here. And oh yeah, the senior servant I think is Proluna. And also let's see, and also something called Jorgen Kaz, the sort of elderly warrior who trained Eric, and they go on the quest. During let's see, and they are told to find Willow, who has warned them about the return of about this girl, who will plan to possibly, I think, the return of the evil queen, or at least some great evil. I can't recall. I know, but then again, this is what happens when I've only watched the episode once. And during the way, they encounter Dove, who tries to cook for them, but the princess wants her to go back and all that stuff. But the others don't mind her presence, and if you will, as she thinks that she's being naive and thinking that she's truly in love with Eric. Eventually, Jorgen Kreis is killed by a bunch of bandits, and they manage to escape them. Eventually, they end up going to like the I think let's see, the Noan village, which is now seems to be in ruins, and we see Willow's friend that journeyed with him a little bit during the film Willow, pretending to be Willow at first before he reveals himself, recognizing let's see, Princess Kit as pretty Queen Sorcer's mother, and then it reveals that, and then he notices Elaine that she is actually, it's Dove, and that she's actually Laura Dornan, the future Empress of Tia San, the Scar, and she is the rightful ruler of the land and that stuff, shocking the party members. Okay, first of all, the the cast and all that stuff. Well, I think all the casting roles are good, and I think I do like each of the characters for the most part. Let's see. I don't know who my favorite is, but Prince Eric is sort of like clearly his father in his youth, where he's a bit of a goofy flirt and all that stuff, and he gets a bit of a trouble and all that stuff. So it kind of like, though he seems to be really serious of liking Dove, though you can't be quite sure if Dove is like just naive, or if she truly does love, let's see, the prince and all that stuff, or well, she seems to at least get an idea about the status at first, but yeah. But she's a bit reckless herself when she goes to try and journey by herself. I do like how the others enjoy her presence, especially when they cook, particularly with Faxter Borman. Let's see. Now, from my understanding, this is probably the most controversial bit, is that Princess Kit and Jade appear to be Kit seems to like Jade and kissed her and all that stuff, but we don't know how Jade feels, but clearly this is clearly going to be the LGBT couple, and of course that has caused some hysteria on YouTube, saying that Willow has gone SJW and ruined the series, and you can kind of see review bombs on Rotten Tomatoes, where I think it's in like the 30s to 20s by users and all that stuff. Now, granted, there's only like, from what I last checked, there's only like 600 users, so take that as you will. I'm not sure if it's like a sort of like an accurate number of who's actually watching the show and all that stuff. It's just the people that are just online reviewing, let's see, giving scores and all that stuff. How trustful you find it, who knows? It's been often debated about, let's see, Rotten Tomato scores in recent years, particularly with like the whole culture war in America, but yeah. But as far as I can tell, I don't really see the main problem relationship. Granted, I will admit, the one dialogue, which apparently has been described as CW thing that could be considered a bit cringe and modern was when Kit went on about that rant about the princess and the sort of brave storyline kind of thing. But again, I guess it's Disney and they have Pixar technically, so yeah. Now, Prince Galen doesn't give him much of an appearance, but he seems to be just ritzy, just accepting of being married and all that stuff. Doesn't really mind it, but doesn't seem to know how to handle Kit and all that stuff, and seems to be pressured in his father to go on this quest. I don't know what the father whispered, but it might be hostile. Let's see, Queen Sash, seems to be like another one of those parents that have trouble with the next-gen kids thing. A tired cliche thing for most spin-off series, but I think at the very least it kind of works here compared to others where she is a queen and has to consider royal duties and all that stuff. So that sometimes brings conflict of interest with her kids. Such as having Kit trying to get her daughter to marry a prince, even though she doesn't want to. Jade, it's interesting. She seems to be a common girl at first, and who's been given this opportunity to train as a knight and wants to do that. But of course, she doesn't want to really abandon her friend, and it's caused a bit of conflict between the two. But who knows? They'll probably build on their romance later, from what I can tell from the description. But yeah. Now, granted, at first I thought she might have been Laura Dawn, just due to the fact that I remember her being gingerhead, but I was pleasantly surprised when it was revealed that Dove was the Laura Dawn, and personally I'm fine with that. It's interesting that they decided to have her hide in secret for a bit, but then, of course, let's see, you had Willow at the end, which, okay, some might be like, you have a show called Willow and you have your main character at the end, but I think it was fine just to get everyone in the cast here to know them and all that stuff. So I think that works. I also found it intriguing about Firaxis Bowman, who is clearly the sort of Mag Martin of the group, if you will, as I think the original actor is not in the best condition right now to return and all that stuff. So he's in a substitute, and he seems to have a history with him, given the fact that he was in prison and all that stuff. But yeah. Now, as for our group of villains, let's see, the Gales. Much of it, they haven't really gotten to know their personality, but I do like the designs, particularly of like the Scourge, which is a hulking monster, the monster, if you will. The Dag is a creepy shapeshifter. The Lich is someone that can, infect someone, and the other is a hidden figure. Might be the leader, who knows, but yeah. But in terms of appearance and effects-wise, they're pretty good. The production of this show is pretty good. Let's see. Pretty good and all that stuff. It feels like an actual... none of the sets feel fake and all that stuff. It seems to be a mix of practical effects and that Mandalorian screening that they've been using, from my understanding. But yeah. Overall, I think I give this episode a... a 7 to 8 out of 10. I will probably say the only criticism I can think of is how that... Jorgen was just brutally killed off after making it in a sort of humorous way, and you had none of the characters reacting and all that stuff. But again, they were running for their lives. I'm curious to learn, since he taught the prince, I wonder how the prince will react as he's kidnapped and all that stuff. And it seems to be a sort of reverse of the damsel in distress, and this time it's the prince in distress, and it's now the damsels that have to go save her. Anyway, on to the second episode, the Alderaan, where we learn in a flashback that after Willow came to visit Queen Sorsha, she wants to train Alderaan, but she convinced that there's no need to teach magic, and that Willow isn't really a proper wizard. Eventually, a few interactions he has with young Alderaan, they have a falling out where she forbids him from seeing her or teaching her, and he sort of gives up on the kingdom, getting angry at her. Sort of like a deluded moment, if you will. But yeah, the group end up going let's see. But yeah, so they meet the others in a New Orleans village, which is now higher underground, where they meet, let's see, Willow's daughter, who is played by his actual daughter in real life. And they have a sort of meeting, and they sort of reveal that what's going on, and that Laura Dern has returned. You get a nice moment between the daughter, and Laura, where she talks about how she discovered her and all that stuff. Though, of course, she doesn't remember. Eventually, they also have the sort of magic finger test from the movie, but she gets it wrong, which discourages like the villagers and all that stuff. Which Willow ends up telling her that it's the belief in yourself and all that stuff. But yeah, it's eventually after a talk with his daughter, agrees to like train her and all that stuff, and comes along on the quest. And his friend comes along with them and all that stuff as they ride off. Where he agrees to try and teach her magic, and tries to get her to do this plant enchantment thing. And let's see, she struggles to do it by chance of the world to get frustrated with Princess Kit. Let's see, making fun of her. Let's see, and well, also ends up having a bit of conversation with Varaxis Bowman and whatever, that he was the apprentice of Mad Martigan, who was in search of this magic armor, and he disappeared as a result of this. So now she's curious about her father, because apparently she thought that for a long time her father had abandoned her. But now, who knows, this might be a part of her quest, might be a secondary thing of her quest to find out what happened to her father, and maybe this magic item that he was searching for. She, of course, gets into clash about Jade a few times, about Laura's worth and all that stuff. Let's see, and you have Willow and Laura clash a little bit. Wherever I think you have Willow kind of missing how she used to just look fondly at him and all that stuff. But yeah, it's clearly like two people that sort of bonded with one who's an infant, now all grown up. They've years apart. They're different people, and they're sort of clashing a bit. Eventually, after some encouraging words from like a Prince Gaiden, she ends up starting to get better at casting the spells. But meanwhile, during when Sasha learns that Dove is gone, realizing her importance, sends Commander, I believe, Baltinian to go find her and bring her back, not telling her what her identity is, as the servant ends up asking. I believe Peruna and all that stuff. However, it's already too late, as Commander Balatine has been infected by the Lich and infects his company along the way. And then now after, let's see, Laura Dern for the Grove, I believe. They encounter Willow's daughter, and she tries to lead them in the wrong direction, but it doesn't work, but is able to escape them, luckily. They hide, but they eventually catch up to Laura Dern and kidnap her. Sort of ending the episode. Okay, we get a bit more. This episode, we get a lot more of Willow, and I suppose you could say he's the main focus in this one. In which we learned about what happened between him, Queen Sasha, and Elaine, and all that stuff. Where he wanted to teach her, but the Queen didn't allow it, and eventually had a falling out with it. I guess you could. I think I've seen some people compare this to like a sort of Luke Skywalker Last Jedi moment, but I think this one is a bit more believable because they showed the flashbacks a bit sooner and all that stuff. And the argument, let's see, we saw the previous episodes that Sasha, the Queen, didn't really want, let's see, think that the whole conflict was over and didn't want magic taught. So, yeah, you can see how he could become a bit deluded and all that stuff. But luckily, his daughter's there to remind her that he's a sorceress and all that stuff. And ends up getting, I think, the wand from his magic mentor, the woman that fought the Queen and all that stuff. I believe the actress is dead now, so you can't see her returning. And I think the actor who played as, let's see, I believe who was the previous head of the village and like the main sorcerer for their thing has also passed away, so now he is the mentor magic figure, and it makes sense that he'll be trying to train Laura Dern. I do like how there's a little bit of, fondness back on, Willow's side, and Laura tried her best to remember, but willing to learn and all that stuff, but she's really just wants to save her boyfriend, if you will, and eventually gets frustrated with her Willow when she can't use her magic and all that stuff, and start arguing with him, causing conflict. But I do like this causes her to doubt herself until Prince Gaiden, encourages her a bit, where he thinks that she must be she's probably amazing and all that stuff. Not sure if this is a building romance between them and all that stuff, because I know that he tried to talk with Princess Kit, but they didn't really work out. So there was that. But yeah, I do like how everyone is willing to give her a chance except Princess Kit, who just sees her as another one of her brother's dirty, naive girlfriends and all that stuff, and doesn't think that she's really the Empress and all that stuff. Which causes her to clash with Jade a bit. I think it's fun. But I think the most interesting thing is her relationship with this episode developed with Firaxis Borman, who is, like we learn, is the apprentice of Mad Matigan, and gives us an explanation on why we haven't seen him in the movie, in this show. At the moment, where we know outside, because the actor's, I think, not well or something, but whether or not he'll appear later on in Willow in future seasons, or if they reveal him to be dead, because I do know in the first book of the Shadow trilogy, he does actually end up dying, so they might do the same thing here. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah. So there's that. I do like how we've got, like, Queen Sasha trying to get, like, his best men to, like, try and retrieve Dove, but keeps secrets from them, but doesn't realize it's already too late, as they've been infected, and they are going to be, like, a secondary antagonist, at the very least, besides the Glove, who will probably appear a bit later, but who knows. But for now, we've got some human characters being possessed by evil magic, at the very least, as our antagonists. Yeah, Willow and the moments with his daughter were fun and all that stuff, and the callback to her being the daughter that found her. Now, I'm not sure what happened to Willow's wife and other kid. I can't recall if they explained it or did they pass away or something, but who knows. But yeah. But other than that, I do like the little magic thing, where it's magic in the finger thing, and you get I like how the crowd reacts negatively when Laura gets it wrong. But anyway, speaking of, I do like how she struggles to do it, and just as she gets kidnapped, she finally is able to do it, showing you that the magic's there and she doesn't realize it. So my guest, Willow and the others will discover that she managed to use magic, but realize she's been kidnapped and come to see her. And they revealed that she did the magic there, or she does some magic to help her escape. That's what my prediction for the next episode is, which will be in tomorrow. Overall, I think this is another 7 to 8 out of 10, or maybe even it's the episode. It's a fun episode. Let's see. Do I have any complaints? I don't know. Maybe. No, not really. Maybe perhaps I should give it a higher score, but yeah. I mean, it's not like too big of a progression in the plot and all that stuff. It's mostly a training episode and all that stuff. But yeah, and catch up with Willow. His work Davis still got in his role and all that stuff. And it's good to see him lead again. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now. I'm Blue Star Saber, signing off. Thank you for listening to this review, and goodbye.